Welcome back everybody to another episode on the channel. Today's episode, guys, we are going to be talking about jerkbait fishing. Everything you need to know basically about jerkbait fishing, from the rod, the reel, the line, to what jerkbaits I use, what colors I like, when to use them, where to use them, how to fish them. Everything you need to know about a jerkbait, we're going over that video today. So before we jump into today's episode though, today's episode is actually sponsored by Super K Jigs. These guys right here on the board behind me, Super K Jigs. If you guys have never heard of Super K Jigs, guys, they make all sorts of jigs. Any jig you can think of, any color combination. Another great thing about Super K is that if there's a custom color combination that you like for a jig that you are not able to find anywhere, you can actually send Super K a message on the website and they will hand make that specific color pattern for you if it's not on the website. So if there's anything custom that you want made, you can get that through Super K. They also do net heads, which I have been going through an absolute ton of net heads, and then swim bait hooks, all sorts of different stuff, but they pretty much make any jig you want. Now, what makes Super K so great, guys, is Super K is all hand-tied jigs. Every single one of the jigs you get is hand-tied. They also make spinner baits as well. They're all hand-tied. Hand-tied jigs, guys, they hold up just a heck of a lot better than your rubber banded jigs, and you pay enough for fishing equipment anyway. You might as well get some good quality out of it. So Super K Jigs, guys, I will link them down below in the description. I use them all the time. Pretty much the only jigs I use, only spinner baits I use, because of just the quality, guys. These things hold up in the long run and you can use them time and time again. Really good hooks in these jigs, guys. So I will link Super K down below in the description. And also use the code WW20. It'll save you guys 20% off your order. So if you guys want to pick up new jigs, new terminal tackle, I highly recommend doing it now, and use that code WW20. I'll throw the code down in the description as well, and it saves you guys 20% off your order. That's a huge percentage. So like I said, guys, go over to Super K, it's linked down below. Use that code WW20. So enough about me talking about that. Let's talk about the jerkbait. So the jerkbait, guys, is a lure that, if you guys have been watching the channel and been keeping up with everything, guys, I just had a day slaying out fish on the jerkbait. So the jerkbait, what I love about it is a perfect early spring lure. This thing absolutely kills early spring. I don't know what it is. It's probably the cadence for the most part, guys, but the jerkbait is one of those lures that just works early spring, and that's mainly because in the early spring, let's kind of set this up for you guys. In the early spring, water temps are cold yet. Like 40 degrees is usually, roughly when I start fishing, the temp's usually around 40 degrees. So around that 40 degree mark though, you know, those fish are lethargic and they're starting to kind of move up. They're going to start, as that water kind of moves up from 40 degrees to 45 to 50, they're going to start moving up looking to spawn. Now around 45 degrees water temp, that is my favorite time to throw one of these babies right here. Now I love a jerkbait that has rattles in it. This one rattles, guys. Actually, this is one of my favorite colors. I'll zoom in on this for you guys. This color right here is actually one of my favorite colors, guys. As you guys can see, it has that blue on the side, that little bit of purple mixed in there. This is just a great all-around color. I don't know why, it just does really well. But like I said, around 45 degrees is when I like to throw this. Now, the reason why is because when you're in 40 degree water temps, I feel like it's still really cold, and you can still catch fish off of these come that time of the year, or that water temp anyway. But once you hit 45 degrees, they really start to get more active, it just seems like, and the jerkbait is one of my favorite ways to catch them. I love jerkbait fishing once we get into that water temp, because this thing just slays out, plain and simple. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to fish it. We're going to go over the rod, the reel, and the line and things like that. But another thing you guys need to pay attention to is if you have a shallow, this is really beginner stuff, but shallow diving crankbaits and deep diving crankbaits. The biggest thing that I can get for you guys is early season. I like to make sure that I'm getting as close to the bottom as I can. So if I'm fishing a little bit shallower, I'm going to use a shallow diving crankbait, which, as you guys can see, that bill is like so. It's jetted down. So this thing is shallow diving. This is also a suspended jerkbait. So when I give this thing a couple twitches, it actually just sits there in the water column. It doesn't sink and it doesn't rise. It just sits there in the water column, which is deadly. A lot of times when you twitch and let it sit on that pause where it's just sitting there like so, that's when the bass tend to hit it. Now, there's also deep diving crankbaits. Let's see if I can get this sucker out of here. I just got a bunch of jerkbaits in the mail today. So this is a deep diving jerkbait. As you guys can see, that bill is a lot different. It's built to dive down there. So a lot of times when you're throwing a deeper diving crankbait like so, I like to actually throw it out there and then reel down like a few times so that this thing actually gets down to depth, and then I start working it with that action. So this is another great color, guys. As you guys can see, it's a chrome kind of with purple on there, another really good color. I love using jerkbaits on sunny days as well. Sunny days are awesome because when you get one of these styles like this, the jerkbaits just seem to shimmer and shine in the water and when they're darting around. So if you get a really sunny day, I think jerkbaits are excellent because they just shimmer and shine in the water column and they just look really, really good. For my favorite colors, let's just go over colors really quick, guys, before we jump into the rod, the reel, and things like that. This is my all-time favorite. Like I said, guys, I don't know what it is about this color. It just works really well. This is another color, that purple and chrome, that I really, really like. And then for another really good color here is a all gold one. Actually, the all gold ones are, I don't know what it is, but on sunny days, these all gold ones just get fish fired up. I got that thing dug out of the package, but as you guys can see, look at that all chrome gold color. This thing just, it really shines in the water column on sunny days, and it just, especially in like dirty water, guys, this thing just stands out and it gets a lot of bites. So for colors, guys, I really like this gold one. I really like that other color. Any kind of shimmery, shiny. Silver is another really good one. But these really work good in sunny days. One other color before I dive into the rod and the reel, guys, is one that I have tied on right now, but this is called like the clown color or something like that. Yellow, red. This one works really good. I've always had good luck on this color, especially in dirty water. Seems to do really well. So now for the rod, the reel, and the line. So the biggest thing that I can suggest to you guys is going with like a 7-footer. So this is a 7-foot one. Now I'm kind of a shorter guy, so 7 foot works good. If you're a little bit taller, you can go a little bit longer with the rod, but you want to make sure that you have plenty of clearance between you and the water when you're kind of, you know, jerking this and giving it its pops so that it works, you know, the bait right. But basically, I use a 7-foot medium power fast action rod. Now you don't want to go medium heavy. Medium heavy, I think it's just a little too stiff of a rod to cast like a smaller jerkbait around. You probably cast around the bigger ones, but for the most part, like these like 4-inch or 4.5-inch ones, a medium power works great. Now fast action works really well for working this bait, but a 7-foot medium power fast action is what I use. And then I'm using a 7 1-to-1 reel on there. Now you don't need to have a 7 1-to-1. You could go slower if you really want to. It's really not in the reel when it comes to fishing a jerkbait. I'm gonna talk about that a little later in the video, but when it comes to fishing a jerkbait, the reel is really has minimal impact into how you're doing this. So the reel doesn't really make that much of a difference. And then for line, you could probably, I use right on here, I have 12-pound fluorocarbon, I believe, and I think I'm using 12-pound just because I'm fishing around a lot of rock and you know, it gets nicked up. But you could drop down to 10-pound or 8-pound. So I'd suggest the biggest thing is the rod with fishing a jerkbait, guys. 7-foot medium power fast action is going to be huge. So now let's talk about fishing this. So when it comes to fishing a jerkbait, guys, what you're gonna want to do is initially, the biggest thing that I can say is when it comes to fishing a jerkbait is you should never be bringing back your jerkbait with your reel, if that makes any sense. You should be working this jerkbait back to the boat or back to the shoreline, however, you know, if you're bang fishing, with the rod. So a lot of times, especially when I'm trying to cover water, I cast at a 45-degree angle. So you're gonna cast this thing out there, and then you're going to, if you're fishing deeper water, you're gonna wanna reel down a couple times, 2-3 times to get your jerkbait down in the water column. But if you're using a shallow diving one, you can do that as well if you want. But biggest thing is you're gonna throw this out there, and then you're gonna give it a couple pops. You're gonna give it a couple pops, and then you're gonna let it sit. And then when you let it sit, you're gonna reel up a little bit of slack. All you're doing is reeling up the slack, and then you're gonna give it a couple pops again with your rod. The biggest thing is if you feel like you're popping, the rod tip too hard, trust me, you're probably not. If you get the jerkbait nice and close to the boat and give it a couple pops like you normally would, you're gonna realize that how hard you're actually popping the rod really isn't moving that jerkbait a crazy far away. You know what I mean? You're not pulling it away from the fish too far. So a lot of times I like to play with the cadence. So for me, I like to start out with a couple pops, let it sit, couple pops, let it sit. Sometimes as that water temp rises up, you can kind of pop, 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 let it sit, pop, pop, pop. You can kind of play with the cadence with it. Now, if it's really cold, you might want to just pop it once and let it sit for a little bit, or pop it twice and then really let it sit. You're just gonna have to play with the cadence. But the biggest thing with jerkbait fishing, guys, is working this jerkbait back to the boat with the rod, not reeling it in. And lastly, when it comes to fishing the jerkbait, guys, the biggest thing is getting out on the water and fishing. I can preach to you guys all day long how to fish a jerkbait, and it's one of those techniques that personally I never really cared for. I never really cared for fishing a jerkbait. It just, I don't know. But this last season, I kind of forced myself in a way to fish a jerkbait and only a jerkbait. And it paid off. Like, I started catching a ton of fish, learning how to use it, learning my cadence, getting the hang, the hang of, like, just working a jerkbait. And I had an amazing day on the water. I've had many amazing days with the jerkbait. So the biggest thing, guys, is getting out there and having time on the water. There you guys have it. That is everything about fishing a jerkbait. If you have any questions, guys, that I did not cover about fishing a jerkbait, let me know in the comments below and I will get back to you guys right away. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.